Every day, tourists in old Havana raised their phones to photograph the same thing. A bright turquoise 1957 Chevrolet Bel Air, rolling past the crumbling colonial facades like a postcard from a world that ended. To them, it's a charming relic, proof that time stopped on this island in 1959. But the man driving it isn't posing. His grandfather bought this car new in the summer of 1958, and for 67 years, his family has performed an impossible act of love just to keep it moving. Almost nothing under the hood is original anymore. That is exactly the point. The man's name was Tomas Herrera, and in the summer of 1958, he was 24 years old, a mechanic in Havana with quick hands and a good name in his neighborhood. Cuba then was awash in American steel. The showrooms along the Malecon sold the newest Detroit had to offer, and the streets shone with Chevrolets, Fords, Buicks, and Cadillacs. More American cars per person than almost anywhere on earth. Tomas had saved for 3 years, and that summer he walked into a dealership and bought the car he had dreamed about since he was a boy. A brand new 1957 Chevrolet Bel Air, two-tone turquoise and white, chrome bumpers you could shave in, a toothy grille, white-walled tires. It cost him nearly everything he had, and it was worth every peso. He drove it out of the showroom, the proudest young man in Havana, with no way of knowing that he had just bought one of the very last new American cars the island would ever receive. He washed it on Sundays. He drove his girl along the seawall with the windows down and the radio up. In a Havana full of American cars, his was the one the whole block came out to admire. He assumed, the way you do at 24, there would always be more cars, more parts, more of everything. But the world he was standing in was simply the way the world was, and always would be. He had about 6 months left to believe that. On the first day of 1959, the revolution swept into Havana, and within 2 years the door to the island slammed shut. In 1960, the new government seized American businesses. In response, the United States imposed a trade embargo that has now lasted longer than most nations survive. Overnight, the pipeline from Detroit simply ceased to exist. No new cars would come, and far more important to a man like Tomas, no new parts would come either. Not a spark plug, not a gasket, not a piston ring, not a fan belt, not so much as a headlight bulb. Every American car on the island, hundreds of thousands of them, became a machine with a countdown running inside it. When a part wore out, there was no replacement on any shelf anywhere in Cuba, and no legal way to bring one in. The sensible thing, the thing almost everyone predicted, was that these cars would die within a decade, used up, cannibalized, pushed into the sea. Foreign diplomats wrote them off as scrap on wheels. A Bel Air was never designed to run for more than a few years without the vast machinery of American industry standing behind it. Tomas Herrera had bought a beautiful doomed thing, and everyone around him knew it. His own father told him gently to sell it while it still ran. What nobody counted on was the stubbornness of the men who owned them, and the fact that a Cuban mechanic, cut off from every factory on earth, would rather rebuild a car by hand 100 times than watch it die. What followed across the whole island became one of the strangest feats of mechanical devotion in the world. With no parts to buy, Cuba's mechanics turned themselves into inventors. They machined pistons by hand on lathes, older than they were. They cut gaskets out of rubber sheeting, cardboard, whatever held. They adapted Soviet parts, tractor parts, boat parts, anything that could be made to fit a car it was never meant for. And Tomas Herrera became a master of it. The Bel Air's original 283 engine ran hard through the 60s, but by the early 70s it was finished. Worn past anything even Tomas could coax back to life. In America, you would have dropped in a crate motor over a weekend. In Havana, there was no such thing. So Tomas did what his neighbors were learning to do. He gave the car another heart. He found a 4-cylinder engine from an old Soviet sedan, and over months of nights he fabricated the mounts, the linkages, the whole nervous system needed to marry a Russian engine to an American body. It ran rough, and it ran loud, and it ran. It was not the first engine he would give it, and it would not be the last. Purists would say that the moment that Chevrolet engine came out, the car stopped being a 1957 Bel Air. Tomas saw it exactly the other way. The car was not the engine. The car was the thing his hands kept alive. And as long as it still rolled down the Malecon under its own turquoise skin, it was still his. And it was still Havana's. And it was still 1958 in the only place that mattered. The Bel Air outlived the Soviet Union that had donated its second heart. When that Russian engine wore out, Tomas fitted a third. When parts for that ran dry, a fourth. He taught his son, Raphael, everything he knew. How to listen to the car, how to make a tool when you couldn't buy one, how to keep something alive out of pure refusal. It was slow, patient, unglamorous work passed from hand to hand. Raphael grew up under that turquoise hood, and in time he taught his own son, Johan. The car passed down through the family not as a possession, but as an inheritance of stubbornness. Each generation was handed not the Bel Air, but the promise to never let it die. Tomas Herrera drove it until his hands could no longer manage the wheel, and he passed away a few years ago, an old man in the same city where he'd bought it new. The family buried him. The car went on. Today it is Johan, his grandson, who drives the Bel Air through old Havana, and under that gleaming turquoise skin now sits a modern diesel engine sourced from a wrecked truck. Quieter, more reliable, and about as far from a 1957 Chevrolet as an engine can get. To the tourists who photograph him at the stoplight, the car is a frozen moment, a pretty ghost of 1958. To Johan, it is something else entirely. It is the last living thing that still remembers his grandfather's hands. In a Havana and in America that the world let slip away, rebuilt 1,000 times, and somehow impossibly still exactly the same car. We tend to think a thing stops being itself when you replace its parts. But maybe a car, like a family, is not the metal it's made of. Maybe it's the refusal to let go. For 67 years, 3 generations of one family in Havana have kept a single turquoise Bel Air alive against every reason it should have died. Not because it was valuable, but because it was theirs. If this one stayed with you, take a moment to like it and subscribe. Because every one of these machines is somebody's unfinished sentence, and there are far more of them out there than you would ever believe. We'll find the next one together, next time,